I understand that the Coven was started by Sybil Lee.
Well, no, she started me.
You spoke of evoking the wise and ancient ones. Now, you're speaking of spirits, powers,
The old gods.
the old gods, to come and help you with what?
Yeah, with our ritual.
Dr. Santee said that witchcraft is the fastest spreading percentage-wise of all the religions in the world.
That when Dr. Santee passed away and his nurses passed away in his coven, that was sort of the end of Coven of the Kata. However, that really is not true. Dr. Santee still had people that were active in Coven roles and still reached out to the community, and this still carried on. Currently, Dr. Santee's Coven is out into 5 or 6 other countries. We have covens, 14 or 15 other covens that have now initiated and hived off of Coven of the Kata work.
And Sybil Lee said that we get a lot of doctors and a lot of physicians and scientists who join the Wicca craft. And that's because these people by nature are curious and inquisitive.
The first time I actually met Dr. Santee was when I was 16, going to get my physical for my driver's license.
I first learned about Frederick Santee when I was a young man growing up in this area, and there were a lot of legends about him, later which I found out most of them were not true.
Hinchcliffe. I'm from Wapwallopin. I've been here all my life and 89 years of it. So, and I grew up 1 mile from here, from this place right here. My grandfather, was, like I am, was hard hearing. And 1 mile from here on the railroad track, because in the spring of the year, when the flood was out, the high water was out, he was walking home from the mines, and a steam engine came behind him and hit him and killed him. My grandmother was left with 6 kids, and so Dr. Fred's father and mother, C.L. and Verna, took my one aunt, Arlene Hess, in and raised her. And she was Dr. Fred's nanny when he arrived. Now, Dr. Fred, he never had what you call a childhood. His mother was a school teacher, and right away she started to teach him. That's why he was so smart.
My name is Cinda Hartman. I live in Berwick, Pennsylvania, in the Salem Township area of Berwick. I'm retired. I am a genealogist by avocation, and I conduct genealogy classes at the Berwick Library. Dr. Frederick Santee was either a child prodigy or a savant, but at age 3, he was speaking and reading English and German. He learned Latin from looking at his grandfather's and his father's textbooks. He entered Harvard University, and he went to Harvard and graduated at age 13 at the top of his class. From there, he went to Oxford in England, and he graduated there at the top of his class.
My name's Maxim Furek. I guess I'm a former rock journalist, but I somehow tumbled into the paranormal. So I've been a paranormal researcher for something like 9 years. My Shepton mythology tapped into some really bizarre things that happened here in northeastern Pennsylvania. So I followed that up with a book called Co-Region Hoodoo, Paranormal Tales from Inside the Pit. And with Co-Region Hoodoo, I had a chapter there. Co-Region Hoodoo is sort of Pennsylvania-centric and also Berwick-centric. So I had a couple chapters there of people like Nick Adams, the rebel. He's buried in Berwick, Pennsylvania. Also Richard Sharp Shaver, and Richard was born in Berwick, as was I. But he was buried there, and he's part of that infamous Shaver mystery that Ray Palmer talked about. So the other person that was close to the Berwick area was Dr. Frederick Santee. And I have a chapter there on Dr. Santee based on all of the books that I could read about Santee that I could get, internet sources, people that knew him, nurses that worked for him, and also having interviewed Dr. Santee and Lady Althena, that's Janie, twice. I interviewed them once just with a legal pad, and then the second time around they allowed me to tape record them. Of course, everybody talks about Dr. Santee being this genius. There were at least, in my estimation, at least 8 people that helped Santee walk down that path of occultism. And when he started to go to school in Harvard, he had a philosophy professor that wrote a book on the occult that got him involved. But there were 2 other people, certainly Janie, Edna, and she had a passion for the occult, as did Santee. I think that her passion and her motivation was a lot more than his. The other one was Sybil Leek.
My name is Barbie Smith. I live in the little village of Hobby, which is part of Wapwallopen. I actually grew up on a huge farm in Slocum, which is also part of Wapwallopen, one of 9 children. I want to almost say a funny story or something that came to mind thinking about, preserving his legacy and his history and his brilliance was all the ladies that worked at the office there. I don't know if it was part of the criteria or something in your interview process that you had to wear high heels, dresses and high heels. But Doc's girls, they were known in the town and in the area as Doc's girls, the nurses, the secretaries, whatever. They always wore dresses and high heels. And I especially remember one lady, and not to be disrespectful, but around town her nickname was Tanglefoot, because she had a little bit of physical disability. She had a little trouble with the high heels, let's put it that way. I believe her name was Edna Williams, and but she was a very pleasant lady to talk to. She also had something, I don't know if it was a cancer on her face. The nose area on her face got to be a dark color after time. But she stuck there and worked at the office, for a long, long time.
My name is Amy Kyle, and I am a high priestess in the lineage of Dr. Santee's Coven of the Kata. Edna Kishba was very big in the Coven. She was the high priestess. And how this sort of all formulated was her and Dr. Santee and the other girls in the office always did have an interest in the occult. Back in the 1960s, Sybil Leek was a very famous witch in England as part of the New Forest clan, and she had moved to New York. She used to do TV shows. She used to write monthly articles for the magazine Ladies' Home Journal back then. And one time, Edna had actually saw Sybil on a TV show and got the idea, hey, this would be great if we could reach out to Sybil and get her to train us in the occult and start our own coven. Sybil Leek at the time was writing books, was starting to become famous, and would still travel down to Wapwallopen to do formal training with Edna and Santee. And back in, I believe it was 1968, she had published Diary of a Witch, and that was her biggest work that made her famous. So she had moved out of New York and had gone to Los Angeles for some time, left the area, but still remained in communication with Edna and Dr. Santee as far as coven workings.
My name is Travis McHenry. I am a practicing occultist, a ritual magician, and an author of tarot cards. I'm originally from Benton, Pennsylvania, a very tiny town. I actually wrote a biography and eventually turned that into its own book called Magicians, Martyrs, and Madmen. And Dr. Santee's biography plays a very big part in that book. And I even designed a set of tarot cards around him, and he is the Page of Cups in my tarot deck. My interest in Santee it's not just an academic interest where I'm interested in his biography and his life and the kind of person he was. Learning about him actually informed my own spirituality, and I became an occultist. Like I said, I'm a practicing ritual magician, and it has allowed me to travel some of the same path that he traveled as I was going through the process of learning about him. Santee's passion really was for Latin and Greek verse, and when he was at Kenyon College, he was renowned as a Latin poet. He loved Latin, and his poetic verses are considered to be on par with any poet from the Roman era. That's how good his peers considered him to be. And what's interesting about that is most old books of magic written during the Renaissance and during the medieval period were actually written in Latin. So it really makes sense that as Frederick was in Oxford during his education, when he was studying there, he had access to many of these old medieval texts written in Latin. He would have understood exactly what they said. He could have translated them for his fellow occultists. And I think he approached the occult from an academic standpoint at first, through his love of Latin.
He started the Coven in 1967 as initiated by Sybil Lake, who came there with her son Julian and her publicist. Santee knew a lot of people. He hung in those circles. He went to New York City. He would hang out at the old magic shop and buy the books and bring them back to Walpolapin. He was an incredible individual. Certainly he was Walpolapin's most unique individual. And again, for the 20th century, he was an individual that really has been sort of ignored and unfortunately is an obscure individual. He should be more than that.
He was just sort of an eccentric guy. Everybody loved to love him, and they also loved to hate him. They loved to talk about him.
Wicca deals in positive magic, healing magic, and good.